Mali, in northwest Africa, once ruled by a mighty dynasty and one of Africa's wealthiest countries. Today, it is one of the poorest in the world. This is a landlocked country with 2/3 of its territory within the Sahara Desert. Over 10 million people live here, many of whom make the desert their home. This is Timbuktu, a city of ancient legends. In the Middle Ages, this was a blossoming center of trade and culture in the Sahara Desert. But today, Timbuktu has sunken into insignificance. However, it is still an important center for the ancient trade in salt blocks. The salt originates from Taudendi, a desolate place 700 kilometers away in the north of the country, close to the Algerian border. In the past, a kilo of salt was worth the same as a kilo of gold, but those days are long gone. Although salt from the desert is still highly sought after and a basic requirement for survival. All animals and people need salt, especially when they sweat as much as they do here. This is just a place to pick up a driver and a guide. Ali has just returned to Timbuktu. He has light skin and comes from the nomadic Tuareg tribe. The 1990s have been a turbulent time for these peaceful people. They revolted against the Mali government and fought the army for 5 years. Only in the last couple of years did peace really return. Ali was driven out of Timbuktu when 80,000 Tuareg fled to neighboring countries. He's glad to be home, but he won't be staying put. He knows the desert like the back of his hand, traveling for years with the camel trains back and forth between the salt mines in Taudendi and Timbuktu. Preparations for the trip to Taudendi are underway. Everything is neatly packed for each camel, but the animals must be woken up and prepared for the arduous journey which lies ahead. To prevent the camels running away, one of their front legs is bound up high. Not particularly pleasant for the animal, but very effective. The driver keeps a safe distance from the camel's foul teeth while bridling the animal, for fear of catching a bite. But as soon as the camels are linked together, they appear to resign themselves to their fate. Babia Sidi Hamed has been in the caravan business for 25 years. For him and his 2 helpers, it's all routine. It takes half a day of preparation before a caravan can set off on the 700-kilometer trek through the desert. It is a long, hard trip, but for Babia, it's a tradition. These animals are used to carrying loads. It is what they have been trained to do, but they fight against the ordeal on every occasion. Babia is lucky. He sold another block of salt shortly before the journey is to start. In Timbuktu, it's sold for 5,000 African francs, about £5, twice as much as you'd pay if you bought it at the salt mine. Finally, it's goodbye to the camel caravan. The 35 camels are loaded up with rice, tea, sugar, firewood and fodder. The caravans can travel in December and January, but in a couple of months' time, temperatures will reach 50 degrees Celsius in the shade, too hot to move. Despite the harsh nature of this profession, more and more young people are taking it up, simply as jobs are so scarce. We always have a bit of money left over after bartering salt against grain, rice and other things. So with this we manage to survive. Babia is from the Maori tribe, an Arab Berber, and the camels belong to him. Shortly after leaving Timbuktu, his caravan crosses another fully laden with salt blocks, which has just made it back from Taudendi, traveling almost non-stop for 40 days. Close to the start of the trail, a nomad camp lies along the caravan route. Nomad women are extremely self-sufficient and make most of what they need themselves. They wear their hair drawn to the front of the brow and plaited into a knot. To prepare food, goat milk is shaken back and forth in a leather bottle until it starts to thicken. The nomads, happy to have visitors, offer hospitality and green tea. I love the way we work. The only time things were hard was during the Civil War. They took away my goats and often also my camels and simply slaughtered them. We have problems when the children are sick. We don't have any medicine or drugs, except sometimes the little quinine to fight against malaria. Mostly those who are sick don't survive. Nomads won't say how many animals they own. They round them up only after they have found what fodder they can. An owner can tell his camels by the markings on their necks. If a camel dies in the desert, the tribe has to leave its load whilst they carry on. No other nomad who comes across the goods will touch them. Caravans which are on their way to Timbuktu come one after the other. An adult camel can carry up to 4 salt blocks, a load of 120 kilos or more, the equivalent of 2 adult men. At night, camel dung is burnt as fuel. The flames are a useful source of warmth, and dinner is cooked over this. Nights here can be bitterly cold, and there is little protection from the elements. Each morning at sunrise, the ritual begins. Rumbling and bellowing, the camels try to prevent their heavy loads being strapped on. Most have spent the night on 3 legs and are bad-tempered about their fate. Then, from dawn to dusk, the drivers and their camels are on the move. Skeletons and bodies are witness to the often deadly price of crossing the desert. During the day, guides and traders use the sand ripples and the forms of the dunes for orientation, as well as the traces of thousands of camel trains which have trodden the same route. At night it's easier, as the stars show the way. At last, the first water well. Camels can survive for 14 days without water. During extreme temperatures, they lose a quarter of their body weight. After many days on the march, an animal can drink 130 liters of water in one go. They perspire at a higher temperature than humans, 46 degrees, and the water they gather up is stored deep in their bodies. Although, contrary to popular belief, not in their hump, which is in fact fat.